Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games on this beautiful What If Wednesday. Joining me today is the one and only star of the Anthony Gargano Show. It is JP Zapata. What's going on, JP? Long time no talk.
What's happening, bro? I know, man. It's been a minute.
It's been a little bit. We got a lot of catching up to do. We're doing a mailbag episode today, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm excited. Some good questions today.
What you been up to this summer?
Dude, I got a little hitched. Got a little hitched a month ago in Colombia. 2 weeks off. It was really good. Got some good weather, good food. May have gained a couple, that love pounds that they always talk about. But no, everything's good. I'm blessed. That Cuz show's doing really good. We're obviously really excited for football season and, of course, hockey season, which I'm excited to talk to Cuz about with some hockey, with some Philadelphia Flyers. But no, everything's been really good, man. I can't complain.
No, absolutely. It's been a good time here this summer at PHLY as we're all kind of getting used to what the off season is. Obviously, Phil's every day, but three of our, four main sports, and then we have the Union as well. Don't want to discount the Union.
Appreciate
Obviously, can never discount the Union. But it's been a good time, so I'm glad to have you here today. And before we get into our What If mailbag, we're just stacking the gimmicks today. Not only is it What If Wednesday, but it's a mailbag What If Wednesday. Because I told Charlie, man, this is the week. It took us to the last week of August for us to just run out of stuff. And
it happens, dude.
We're going to stack some gimmicks. So he was like, oh, well, guess what? I'm off Wednesday and Friday. I was like, you son of a... I don't think we're allowed to swear anymore. So we at least have to cut down.
We have to behave, guys.
So, yeah. But Charlie's not here, but we have JP in his stead. But before we get to the... as I knock over my water bottle... Before we get to the mailbag questions today, we have the ticket giveaway. That's right. For Friday's Rookie Series game, Friday, September 13th at 7:05 up in Allentown at the PPL Center. We're going to have a great time. Going to have a little meet-up before the game.
Absolutely.
A bunch of tickets to give away. We're giving away one pair today. And we're going to do that right now. You have to be a diehard to enter. A few more entries from the diehard discard got added to the bucket today. So we will see who's today's winner is.
We don't have sound effects, but imagine drum rolls, guys.
Yeah, we'll do the drum roll. Look, it's not an empty bucket. Got a whole bunch of names in here, not just making it up.
It's like the NHL draft lottery right now.
Yeah, we have one name here. It is J.H. John Tortorelli is today's winner.
Great name.
That's right. Yeah, so we will be I'll get in contact with you on the Discord. You have to have a Ticketmaster account. I'm sure most people listening have one. If you enjoy going to events, you probably need a Ticketmaster account. I'll be in touch, and I'll forward you a pair of tickets to Friday's Rookie Series game, which should be, in all likelihood, obviously, card always subject to change, but the fact that they're advertising Matvei Michkov tells me he's going to be at these games. He hasn't played in North America yet. You got to believe they want to get him some ice time before getting him started in the NHL.
It's a hot ticket, Bill.
Yeah, and I got to believe they want to sell some tickets to this thing. So Michkov, in all likelihood, is going to be there. John Tortorelli will...
it's your appetizer for Michkov.
We'll get you hooked up. And now we have our mailbag questions to get to today. And we will start it with a couple questions from that diehard Discord. Of course, if you're not a diehard, just go to allphly.com, sign up. All sorts of benefits, including access to the PHLY Lounge, where you get to have way more sane conversations about the teams than you probably do on social media.
Facts.
Started with a couple from the diehard Discord. First one from J Chime. What if Chuck Fletcher was fired earlier? Would Johnny Hockey have fit the timeline? Would Giroux have been signed back?
It's a great question.
It's a very interesting question. I'm choosing to look at this like Chuck Fletcher was stuck in between, like, okay, Johnny doesn't fit our timeline. Somehow Rasmus Ristolainen does. Like, somehow Travis Sanheim does. But if he had been fired earlier, I gotta believe it's because the team just flat out stinks earlier. They're far more interested in hitting the rebuild sooner. Like, they suck that last year, Fletcher, and end up picking fifth, drafting Cutter Gauthier. I just think there's probably a push to sell a lot earlier. Like, I think the difference would be, like, even if he trades for Risto, even if he's still around to do that at the 21 draft, like, all right, yeah, we're not extending this guy. Sunk cost be damned. We're not doing things like that. Maybe Travis Sanheim is traded rather than extended. I think it's less of a chance that, like, Giroux is back. Like, no, man, we have to trade this guy and get assets for him. And Johnny definitely doesn't fit the timeline in that regard. Because that was my biggest issue at the time. It was like, all right, if you're telling me Johnny Gaudreau doesn't fit the timeline, you're probably right. Like, I wanted him because I thought it would be fun, and this team just seems stuck anyway, so get me this guy. Like, awesome. If we're going to be in this middle area, go get me the best player available. That was Johnny at the time. But if they come to the conclusion, like, no, I think it's more about the players we have now not being here than, like, Giroux and Johnny being here. It's like, yeah, man, Risto doesn't make sense. Sanheim doesn't make sense. I think it's more about that. Like, maybe with a couple of years left on his contract, we're like, it's Travis Konechny. Like, as he struggles before the last 2 years where he really broke out again, maybe we trade him. Like, I think it's more of a subtraction than an addition thing. Well,
I would say that I think that Chuck Fletcher should have been fired after that 22-23 season. That's how I felt after watching that year. But, like, a couple of those things. So, like, the thing about Johnny Hockey was interesting. What made us frustrated probably as well. We obviously know the talent that is Johnny Hockey. I mean, the dude's one of the best forwards. But, like, the dude actually wanted to play here.
Yeah.
And, like, he saw what was happening in Philadelphia. And the fact that he saw it said, like, I still want to be a Flyer. Like, I think that's what drove us to another level. Like,
he wanted to be here. He's from here.
Right.
And we just hadn't had a shiny new toy in a while.
Exactly.
Like, and did it make sense? No, probably not, especially seeing the direction the team took. I wanted him because it would have been fun. But if you're telling me he doesn't fit the timeline, then all the other stuff you didn't make sense. Like, you bring in John Tortorella, it's like, okay, he's gonna evaluate everyone. He's our evaluator. He's gonna tell us who has it and who doesn't. But you signed Sanheim before the season even begins.
None of that made sense, man. Like, none of it made sense.
That stuff just didn't make any sense. If you're telling me that this good player doesn't fit, these mediocre guys like Risto and Sanheim do fit the time, like, what are we doing? So I think it's more about that than...
He did contradict himself a lot while he was here.
I know people have an issue, like, does this plan really make sense with the Flyers? And listen, I've said, I don't know if some of the stuff they've done has made a ton of sense. But that plan, there was none. Like, Chuck Fletcher was just kind of treading what he was just trying. I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this team. We're supposed to stay competitive. Everything I do to try to keep us competitive makes us worse. Like, also bad luck, like Ryan Ellis, you know?
Oh,
like,
my God.
That sort of thing. So it's tough to say, but I just think they would have embraced who they are sooner, and who they were was nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, I agree. The timetable probably we would further into our process if that would have definitely happened there. It is truly interesting kind of look back at that time period. And, you know, the one thing I do look at too, would JVR been traded if he was fired earlier at that deadline?
I wonder how much interest. I mean, obviously no one was willing to give up much. And even at 50%, JVR was still like $3.5 million. Maybe there were teams that it was just like, no, man, we don't want to give that. We don't want to give you anything for a guy who isn't very good, still making not a substantial amount, but $3.5 million at the deadline. There's other ways we could spend that money, but I gotta believe someone else is able to trade it.
But, like, I feel like at that time, like, when teams would call the Flyers, when the Flyers would call teams, they see the phone, they see Chuck Fletcher, they're like, Chuck Fletcher, and they start laughing. That's how I felt at the time. The league saw Chuck Fletcher as a joke.
It was very odd. Like, he was able to get a return, and, like, yeah, some of the players he traded just weren't very expensive, but he's able to get something back for a couple of the defensemen he trades and a couple of the depth players. And it was just like, JVR still has something. And that's evidenced by the fact he goes to Boston the next year.
Exactly.
For 1 year, $1 million, and isn't bad, you know? Like, wasn't horrible for them. Gets scratched a little in the playoffs, but yeah, it was just... he just didn't seem to really know what direction to take the team. It's probably a little bit on ownership. Like, he's getting contradicting messages. Like, you have to stay competitive, but also you need to somehow get us assets. It was just as bad as I did. As much as I look back on Chuck Fletcher and go, you failed, bro. I think there was a lot above him that was going wrong as well. And it's hard to judge his tenure on like, yeah, he couldn't trade JVR. It's like we were so far beyond that. Like we needed to be in rebuild mode a year sooner than we were. Like that's really what it comes down to.
What was the moment you felt we needed to go to a rebuild again? During Fletcher's tenure?
Really, I mean, when they trade Giroux, it's like, okay, so it's over.
Yeah.
But looking back, I didn't know what direction the team should go in because they had these guys, and you look back at 2020 and be like, there's something there with this group. And then maybe when it's, oh yeah, I'm going to trade Jake and try to salvage this thing, and we're going to keep Alain Vigneault. Like maybe it's there where it's the team needed wholesale changes. Everyone from the top down should have been like, this thing ain't working. All these guys are now a year or two old. Like, we're not going to get back to what we were a year or two ago. All these guys have aged, gone through injuries and stuff. Maybe it's 2021 where we go, yeah, this thing just needs to be blown up.
That season was so tough, 2021, because you were battling COVID, right? You know, you're playing a lot of the same teams because of that schedule as well. And like, you know, you look back at that year, you lost to the Rangers like 3 times with like more than 5 goals that the Rangers scored
just
on you in those games.
Demolished.
Vigneault gets fired, and like at that point, I'm like, yeah, we were just like a year off from that bubble that was nice, but like this is not nice. This was not Flyers hockey. They they essentially kind of gave up on a lot of those games, and that was kind of the moment where it was like, we might need to rebuild, guys.
All right, our next question, which also came out of the Die Hard Discord, is from B. Pezzi. He says, like many of us, I had extremely high hopes for the Hextall administration. I declared to friends that if Hexy is able to GM Philadelphia to a cup that he never won as a player, he would have a place in the Flyers Mount Rushmore alongside Clark, Bernie Parent, and Ed Snyder. Had Hextall orchestrated a cup as GM, where do you think he would have ranked among all-time Flyers in the fans' minds, and how much did his stint as GM tarnish his legacy in Philly? It's a hell of a question.
Yeah, it's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah, I do think because he's such a beloved, like, he's the fighting goalie. He has the rookie year where he wins the Vezina and the Conn Smythe. He comes back, goes to another cup in 97. I do think, yeah, if his plan all comes together, if all those draft picks work out or he drafts better, you know, all that stuff. Say he takes Mikko Rantanen instead of Ivan Provorov. He takes Miro Heiskanen instead of Nolan Patrick. All these things work out. The team ages well. All that stuff. Yeah, he is thought of as an all-time great Flyer. Maybe one of those 4 guys on the Mount Rushmore. His legacy now, I think all things can be healed with time. Like Eric Lindros, great example of that. It's not as if it was just the organization that hated Lindros. Like there was I was there the day Lindros came back as a Ranger. Mm-hmm. Everyone hated him. I was wearing a Lindros Flyers jersey at that game, and I'm like a kid. And I have old dudes behind me like heckling me, saying they're going to draw on my jersey and stuff.
What are you doing, bud?
Yeah, like it was a long time before it was like, man, he was really good, and concussions are a big deal. And yeah, man, if you could have hooked that dude up with an Eastern Synergy in 1999, he would have had a totally different career if he could feel the puck on his stick because he was so tall. It took a long time to get there. I think Hextall eventually, like luckily he's already in the Flyers Hall of Fame and stuff, so it's like he's not going to be an outcast. Like they're not taking his name off the banner, you know? But I think it's going to be a while. Yeah. Time heals everything, but considering the propaganda fight against him, like Bob Clark coming out and going, actually, all the scouts wanted Cale Makar, you know, and he locked himself in the room and said, no. It was like, well, actually, I think some of the scouts wanted Heiskanen, and he said, no, I'm going with Nolan Patrick. We need a center, and the Brandon Wheat Kings, that's where he played juniors. Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that there was a barrage against Hextall, and like Hextall has a press conference at like the hotel across the street after he gets fired to tell his story. Like it was such an adversarial parting of the ways. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah, dude. You know what's funny is that like in Philadelphia Flyers history, there's a lot of what ifs, man. Too many what ifs.
That's why we've been able to do a month's worth of what if Wednesdays. And I'm like, I'm kind of out of material. Let me ask the people, and we have dozens of questions we're not going to get to today.
I know, but it's funny because like when you look at this situation, like for me, like I do separate the player that was Hexy and I would separate him as a GM. But like you can kind of compare it to the Bobby Clark thing. Like obviously Clarky was beloved here as a player, and some people felt sour about him as a personnel guy. But I mean, for Hexy, I mean, obviously, like I said, I separate the two. But you look at when he came here, I was genuinely excited, like our listener said too, because came from that Kings organization, just came off some Stanley Cup wins. Also, they were emphasizing development during the time in LA too, and those are all things that made us all super happy and excited.
He was the GM of the Kings AHL team. They said he was one of the guy. No, he wasn't the GM there. He was just the assistant GM. Right. But it was like he helped orchestrate a team that won cups, and we see it's like, oh, it's Flyers West out there, and he's going to come here with this plan and draft and develop this talent, and it's something we've never done. And it was very much, I always said, it's like we sent him to college. Like Hextall was the prodigal son returning, and he takes over for Paul Holmgren, and everyone was so sour on Homer at the time, and it was, oh, okay, here's our savior, and we really liked his drafts. It was okay, he's doing a great job, and then suddenly, none of these players are living up to the billing. Like, it's not happening. It's not happening the way we thought it would. And just one move after another where, okay, well, when are we going to get better? Are we? We're not bringing in good players to help Giroux, and these draft picks aren't working out. So what the hell are we? And it was just, I'm not doing anything with just more wait and see.
Well, I have to ask, is Ryan Hextall, the GM, the downfall of Dave Hextall?
I just don't think Hack was a very good coach to begin with. Okay. Part of the reason Hextall was fired is because he refused to fire Dave Hextall. Like, I think the two kind of go hand in hand. Maybe those groups needed a more experienced coach to kind of help them, like going through a lot of stuff, whether it's goalie issues or, those two were so in lockstep. Like Andrew McDonald, yes, that was a Paul Holmgren mistake, giving him that extension. But he kept playing, and he kept playing a lot for Dave Hextall and Ron Hextall. And it was like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, Chris Vandevelde played 81 consecutive games that year under Dave Hextall for Ron. Like, it was, those two are, to me, so connected that I really can't separate the two.
Well, when we hired Hextall, my question at the time was, did we just hire the Chip Kelly for the NHL? Because obviously success in college comes here. You always get a little weary when you come from that level of college to the pros like that. So it was definitely like my first reaction to that news.
And like hockey culture is so different, but you do just go. First time coach straight out of college, like dealing with men who don't need you is much different than dealing with college kids whose whole future depends on listening to you, because they can bury your career. Like, it's two very different things. And it's maybe that move more than any failed draft pick or anything, like going with a coach who just wasn't ready for it, maybe wasn't good enough to begin with, but at the very least just wasn't ready, is like what buried the on ice product for Hextall. And it was, all right, so if this is all about development and these players aren't developing, what the hell are you giving us?
Do you, at the time, like taking back to that time, do you remember for yourself, like, what kind of coach or what coach did you want for the Flyers with Hextall?
I know I definitely had thoughts at the time. I cannot remember. I know I was excited about Dave Hextall because it was such a departure from what the Flyers always do.
You just wanted something new.
It was so different. And I was like, oh, finally, we're doing something different. And I was excited about the way they were playing for him for a little bit. And then it was, I do blame a lot of his early failures on, like, I think he wanted a more aggressive, just a more aggressive offensive oriented style. And then his first couple weeks on the job, it was like, every odd man rush resulted in a goal. We can't do this because our goalies are terrible. Like, that's what the first couple weeks on the job, they were just giving up so many goals. It's like, our defenseman can't pinch because every time it's a 2-on-1, the goalie's giving up a goal. Like, we have no chance at getting a save in these high leverage situations. So I guess we just have to play a more conservative style. It was like, so the team's boring. They're not very good. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it was just a whole confluence of events that buried those two.
Good times, guys.
It was. tremendous times. Before we get to those were the couple of questions I pulled out of the Discord. Before we get to the Twitter questions, I want to talk to you about fall allergy season. That's right. We are going to Rite Aid fall allergies. Man, it's been, I know it's funny talking about fall today because it's about 140 out, but don't be fooled. Fall allergies can begin as early as August and last well into November with culprits. The causes of these allergies ranging from ragweed and mold to sagebrush, dust mites, pet dander, and fur. Really anything. I've been a fall allergy sufferer my whole life. It was especially bad when I was in school, but still to this day, I'm sure longtime listeners can tell, like, oh, Bill's going through it today. You can always hear it in my voice. There's ways to get relief, preventative measures you can take. First thing, super easy. Go to riteaid.com/rewards and receive and sign up to receive email pollen alerts for your area. You can also go to your local Rite Aid, pick up a dehumidifier. Dust mites and mold thrive in humid environments, and a dehumidifier helps take the moisture out of the air so that these allergens can't grow. Shower frequently. Not only do you get all the pollen and mold spores off your skin and hair, but also just shower frequently, man. You should. Check pollen counts. Like I said, you can sign up for the pollen alerts at riteaid.com/rewards. Run your AC. Keep the windows closed and wear a protective mask and gloves when gardening. Just a few preventative things you can do to try to avoid the fall allergies. But if that's not enough, check out Rite Aid's over-the-counter options like a nasal rimps, antihistamines, and 1 to 2 weeks before pollen allergies are expected to be high, try a nasal corticosteroid. Still not enough relief or you still have questions? Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if a different type of allergy medication like a decongestant might be necessary. And you can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during allergy season. And while we're here, perfect. I just told you, maybe keep those windows closed a little longer, fight those allergies, run that AC. Well, you know what happens to AC units? They break down, especially maybe when it all of a sudden has to work real hard when not expected. It was cool all week and then boom, 140 degrees. Check out Ace Hardware for all your home repair needs. You got a leaky pipe? Ace Hardware Home Services is around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person to do the fixing. Got an air conditioner issue? I told you about mine a few weeks ago. They have a person for that as well. And all those household projects, like maybe a leaky faucet. You said last fall. I'll get to that when I get to that. Well, guess what? Fall is just around the corner and you still haven't done it. They have a person for that too at Ace Hardware Home Services, because now Ace isn't just the helpful hardware folks. They're the helpful home services and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Home Services. We're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love from the store, now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. All right.
Real quick, Bill. Yeah. So B. Linson in the comments actually brought up a really good point. Talking about Hextall and that goalie room in the early days. It feels like Steve Mason, Michael Neuvirth was the last time we had a strong goalie room. Like, I know like Moose and Carter Hart, young Carter Hart was fine, but Carter Hart was still trying to find himself at that point.
Still working it out. Yeah, absolutely. It was, and Mace, if I remember the timeline correctly, was going through some real tough personal stuff that first half of Hextall's first season. Neuvirth was very good, just could not stay healthy. Exactly. And it was like, how much can we use him? He's a really good backup, really good tandem goalie. Can we make him the starter? Can he stay healthy? The whole thing was just the Flyers' luck, man. If they didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all. That's what the Flyers have been basically my entire life.
I'd take that room right now.
2019-20. Hey, man, looks like we're going to win this division. Global pandemic, Hopefully once in a lifetime, world shutting down. Yeah.
Dude, didn't we have like a 9-game winning streak? Then we lost to Boston.
Lost to Boston. They still had a game coming up against Washington, and I think if they had beat Washington, they'd be first place in the division. And nope, Game never happened. I had tickets for that weekend or the following weekend. Edmonton was coming to town. I was like, oh, McDavid. Like, I still have the tickets. I want to get him framed. Like, the game that never happened, McDavid coming to town.
Oh, that's sick, dude.
All right. Let's go to some of the Twitter questions. Let's go to Devin. I'm pretty sure that's how he told me. I've pronounced it Devon, and he one time tweeted me, like, it's the easiest way to pronounce it. I'm pretty sure it's Devin. If I get it wrong again, I'm sorry, bro.
I'm sure Charlie's got it.
Yeah, he does. What if the Flyers are out of the playoffs come trade deadline? Who the hell are they selling? And that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because it's very well possible. There's a lot of ways this season can go. I think the best way for this season to go down, if I'm the Flyers, and I know they want to play meaningful games and get them to develop in these situations. For me personally, the best way for this season to unfold is guys like Forster and Tippett, even Frost, Jamie Drysdale, all the dudes that we need to see take a step forward do.
Yes.
But the results are skewed by goaltending that isn't great. If Ersson and Fedotov are just or worse, well then guess what? We're going to have a top 10 pick, probably better. In that scenario, they will be out of the playoffs at the trade deadline, and I have to believe Rasmus Ristolainen and number one name. Like, you have to figure out a way out of this contract, and you just have to make room for other defensemen. Like, you have other dudes coming, and you have other guys who require the ice time, if for nothing else than to just see who the hell they are. Yeah. I think he's number one. Maybe this is the year it's Lawton, but we've been saying that for like 5 years, so who knows? Who are you looking at as dudes who might not be long for this team if the season doesn't go well up to March?
Yeah, no, we're definitely looking at those vets, but even I asked you too, like, dude, what's the deal with Risto going into this year? Because I feel the same way. Like, if he's healthy, Bill, you got to put him out on that ice as much as you possibly can, showcase his talent. And the thing is too, like, Risto has really proved his game since arriving in Philadelphia. Again, the issue's been those injuries. So, like, yeah, I mean, if you could find a way to put him out on the ice if he's healthy and you showcase his talent, I mean, $15.3 million over the next 3 years is a hefty price for a guy who can't stay healthy. But the upside is definitely there. But that's definitely one of the names I would truly be looking at. And then, like, those fringe guys, like, obviously, like, guys like with some not so great contracts either. Would they kick the tires off Sealer? Garnett Hathaway is another guy I would be looking at too. Obviously, some of those rental guys like Eric Johnson, some of these vets, it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, I don't personally want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
But these are some of the names that they would definitely be looking at.
I think Eric Johnson's an interesting one because teams are always looking for that sort of depth experience. Yeah. Maybe you can get, I mean, it wouldn't be anything substantial, but maybe you can get something for him. Hathaway, I thought, was absolutely a trade candidate before he signed the extension. Guys I am looking at, though, with and granted, they're RFAs, but Morgan Frost and Noah Cates are in contract. They are in contract years. And especially Morgan Frost, like, we know the coach isn't exactly in love with his game. Yep. He's had spurts throughout his career where it's like he looks like something, and other times where he just disappears for weeks at a time. If he doesn't find any real sort of consistency yet again, they could definitely be looking to move Morgan Frost. I think he's an interesting name. I don't think there's much interest in moving Cam York. I do think they really like him. But, yeah, I think Cates and Frost, especially Morgan Frost, could be guys we're not looking at right now as trade candidates, but depending on the seasons they have, yeah.
Let me throw another hypothetical at you. Let's say we're not good, right? And Drysdale doesn't develop at all. You got another year after this season with him. He's an RFA in 26-27. Would they give up on him that easily, that early?
I mean, it always depends on return. I don't think you can admit defeat in the Cutter Gauthier. Like, just from a PR stand, like, if you traded Cutter Gauthier, like, and say he's in the running for the Calder, he's looking good. Can you give up on Drysdale this quickly? Now, if someone's offering you a whole bunch for him, maybe, but I don't know if that would be the case if he's not really showing anything. And I think I have to channel Charlie here and say,
little logic.
This year, I believe Jamie Drysdale really needs to show me something for me to have a high opinion of him. Charlie has said this coming season for Drysdale, He just needs to show he can stay healthy. Like, that's the number one thing. And then his progress from there, it's up to Bradshaw and the coaching staff to turn him into the player they think they can be. But it's not necessarily about, oh, yeah, he's our number one power play guy, and the power play made a big jump with him, and he's playing 22 minutes a game. Like, Charlie has said, it's not about him. It's not about that so much for him this year as it is, dude, you got to be on the ice. You have to be out there healthy and showing us something of what we think you can be. Because if you're not out there, we can't assess you at all.
I agree with that. But I would throw this question to the fans. Like, what do you guys expect from Jamie Drysdale going into the season? Like, I feel like this fan base do want to see him as a quarterback of the power play, because we all saw that skating ability. We all had that thought in our head. Like, yeah, that's going to be awesome. 10 years of him running your power play, it'd be awesome. But yes, you need him to stay healthy for most of the season. So we'll see how his health holds up here this year.
He was at no point healthy last season. He had the late start. Didn't really get a training camp because of his contract negotiation. He suffered the core muscle injury allegedly in the first game of the season with the Ducks. He's out for a little while after that. Comes back in December. The Flyers go, yeah, we've seen enough. Let's pull off this trade. And gets hurt after a few weeks with the Flyers. Just never was right. Now he's had the core muscle surgery, so we will see about Jamie Drysdale. But man, looking at the Flyers and Ducks yesterday and comparing their prospect pools and their rebuilds,
assuming it wasn't that fun.
So much hinges on Drysdale. Oh, dude. It's the difference between looking at it and going, man, they just don't have nearly enough blue chip guys to. All right, they did pull off a good trade, like the 2022 sixth overall, or 2022 fifth overall pick in Gauthier for the 2020 sixth overall in Drysdale. Good return, way to go. Cancel each other out, or shit, we really messed this one up. Like that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to be a big part of Danny Briere's tenure and what this thing looks like going forward.
Yeah, Ducks are definitely interesting, though. I mean, like, they're going to go through the growing pains with some of these young players, but if they do find some vets down the line, I don't know, man. Well, obviously, we'll see Gauthier early this year, man. We'll see.
This is an interesting one from RJ Smiley. I love it because it frames this coming season and the timeline in a totally different way. What if Matvei Michkov receives Hart Trophy votes this season? Not saying he wins MVP, but he has a good enough year to be like, look what he did as a 20-year-old in the NHL. He's this good. Then to me, it becomes you have to turn the corner. Danny Briere has to look at this as we have 2 years of a star caliber player making very little. Like, even if he hits his bonuses, it's like $3.5 million. It's like having a quarterback on the rookie deal. We have to take advantage of this in some way.
That's a great point.
We have to take advantage of this in some way because we might not get a financial opportunity like this again. Because if he gets Hart Trophy votes as a rookie, there is no bridge deal. Yeah. It's like 8 years, $8 million, 8 years, $10 million, right away after that ELC expires. Whatever star caliber players are getting by the time that happens, with the cap going up, new CBA and everything, probably some new teams coming into the league. Like, it is immediate that you have to give him the star level contract. So right away, like next June, we're going, go shopping, Danny. Make some trades, sign some free, whatever the hell you have to do, because you'll never be in as advantageous a financial situation as you are right now.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Philadelphia again becomes a nice destination playing with that young kid. I know you're a betting guy, so the other week we were on Anthony Gargano's show. We were looking at the Calder odds there. And he has the highest odds right now, according to Vegas.
He is the favorite. I think I got him at 4-1. And I hit his points total over, too. Bill. I think it was like 46.5. What, am I not going to, like, I want it to happen. And listen, even though he's the favorite, it's still 4-1. Like, it's not like I'm getting killed. It's not -110, So, I'm going to bet on it. And the Flyers really he needs to at least be a finalist. Yeah. Like, for this thing to play, it's not as if he can't grow into a star, but I really want this to happen. And the Flyers kind of need it to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, if the expectation, fulfills itself, obviously a lot of people expect it's going to be Michkov and Celebrini. I mean, and when I look at both the Flyers and the Sharks, I know we're not looking at last year's game in San Jose, but the Flyers do have a better situation than the Sharks do. I mean, like, we were, 2 points away from that final wild card spot? The Sharks were horrendous last year.
The Sharks may have right now, like, you look at it and go, oh, in 5 years, they're going to have a real nice lineup. And I don't know what the Flyers are going to have because, how's Travis Konechny going to age? Who's the goalie? Like, all these different questions. But, like, yeah, if Michkov is good right away, it's like, well, we do have some really nice pieces, whether it's to be a part of a team with Michkov over the next few years or something of value for trades. Like, we have a lot of assets. We have some pretty good players for second, third line roles. They could pull off something that it's like the Sharks. Well, our whole thing is 5 years from now.
Yeah, you know what, too, Bill? Like, just looking at the larger Philly sports landscape here, it'd be so awesome if Michkov fulfills what his expectations are. So that way we could talk about Jalen, Bryce, Joel, and Matvei. Like, that'd be sick.
It would be nice for the fourth team to be relevant again. I mean, for us personally, like, I got a contract, It would be nice if way more people were interested in this show because the team's good. I love the viewers we have now, but we're opening that bandwagon, baby. It's I want millions of people to watch this show because they're as invested in the Flyers as they are the Eagles. I know that's a pipe dream,
right?
Because the Eagles aren't just a team here; they're like our civic religion. But it would be nice.
Yeah,
it would be nice.
Keep rocking those Michkov Mania t-shirts, guys. We appreciate that.
Yeah. So we have a new. What's the new store website?
So
allcity.store.com/PHLY.
Yeah. It's really dope. We have some new shirts in there. If you kind of just glance through, we got some new stuff in there.
We have
really
the Liberty Bell logo, our Liberty Bell flag logo in orange is really cool.
Oh, dude.
It's really cool.
Great job, bosses.
I may have grabbed one the other day. This is next question from Ethan Freeman, something you brought up about Risto.
Yes, sir.
He says, what happens with the third D pair, projecting to be between Zamula, Adder, Johnson, and Risto? But what's the biggest priority? Is it showcasing Risto, keeping prospects, or having a Russian friend from Michkov on the roster? How do they manage this? What am I missing that complicates it more? First things first, I think as long as Risto is healthy, it's coming into camp, Zamula, Risto is your second pair, or your third pair. And Zamula is going to have to stink, or someone's just going to have to be awesome, whether it's Adder, whether it's Schenn, whether it's, and handedness also kind of messes it up. Like, Adder is right-handed. He's also not waiver exempt. So we're going to see if he makes the team. But I think it's Zamula, Risto to start, depending on health and everyone being all right. And Zamula is one of the guys who speaks Russian. You want him around he's going to be on the team. Like, unless someone comes calling, like, hey, we'll give you one of the centers you need for a package that involves Zamula, then, like, yeah, sure. We'll trade for another dude who speaks Russian. They did it with Gurianov last trade deadline. But I do think having that guy around is important. And Zamula, he's nothing special, but he is the best of the group. Like, he is the best of the group. I don't think Erik Johnson weighs in much. He's going to be your 7th or 8th defenseman. If he has to play, he has to play. But I think the line is like 30 games for him, and I'd probably bet the under. Yeah. It's going to be, I think there's some guys who could, like, if Emil Andre is awesome, he could absolutely supplant Zamula. There are some guys who might be able to take that spot, but going into camp, I think it's Zamula and Risto's spot to lose.
I mean, listen, like I just said, Risto is the priority right now. We need to showcase what this man still has in his tank there, so that has to be the priority. Now, after, I'll be honest with you, Bill, that 6th defenseman, Zamula's not really getting me excited. Adder's not really getting me excited. Jennings not really getting me excited. So, well, let's throw someone out there. And listen, to the point of Zamula, yes, you want those Russian guys out there because you want Michkov to feel comfortable. So that's where I would put him slightly over Adder.
Michkov and Fedotov seem to be pretty close. They're on vacation together right now.
Dude,
they
I love
seem to be hanging out.
Man.
They're going to be at the rookie showcase together. So you do have that guy, and Fedotov is going to be on the team all year. Like, that's going to happen. So you do still have that Russian counterpart for Michkov, even if Zamula is traded, waived, whatever.
But the D units are very intriguing because, we talked about, you brought up Cam York earlier. I want to see if he can take that next step. You saw him, be more willing to be active, especially on the defensive end. He was blocking shots at a ridiculous rate last season. We just talked about Jamie Drysdale as well. seeing if he could just stay healthy for the majority of the season too. So like just a defensive unit in general is very intriguing going into this year. And look, the blueprint's kind of out there. You saw the Florida Panthers won that Stanley Cup, man. You need to be loaded at that blue line. You need guys who can play on both sides too. So I'm going to be intrigued to see, especially at that sixth defenseman, if any of those guys can actually step up.
It will be. And before we get to some of the rest of these questions, let's pay a couple more bills. That's right. And it starts with our friends at FOCO. You know I love FOCO because FOCO is the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Whether it's hoodies, jackets, beachwear, even overalls, there's something for fans for almost every occasion, and we're in between right now. You know, right. You could be going beachwear still. Labor Day weekend coming up. Still, the beach in September, tremendous, very underrated. But obviously, fall right around the corner, so you might be going that way as well. And you know you're going to want your overalls for Red October. Come on now. So there's something for fans for basically whenever. And if you're in the market for some of those accessories, toys, or collectibles for your Man Cave, She Shed, or podcast set, you've got to use FOCO for all those team gear needs as well. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of this show. And for all non-presale items, use promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. That's PHLY10 for 10% off at FOCO today. I got my FOCO. You got to use yours too. I just love FOCO. They just have so much cool stuff, like the bobblehead selection they have. I'm a straw hat guy on the beach. I have a couple of straw hats from FOCO.
Bill, strong.
Yeah, so it's FOCO, pretty dope. PHLY10, that promo code. And speaking of going to the beach, what's great at the beach? Loading up that cooler, baby. I love loading up the cooler to go to the beach, and there's no better cooler than the Rugged Road cooler. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Rugged Road products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. You never lose a drink. I'm not much of a water guy, not much of a boater, but if you are, it can be a little rough out there. You might be having a little too much fun. Well, guess what? That cooler, it's going to float upright no matter what. There's nothing more devastating than losing a drink. And unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising performance. And how insane is that performance? Well, the coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool for up to 7 days, and oftentimes much longer than that. They're perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing and tubing to camping and tailgating. Perfect tailgating season coming up. You know, we have hockey coming, basketball coming, baseball playoffs, bird season. Woo! Who doesn't want to be tailgating? Your tailgate partner should be a Rugged Road cooler. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used, Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code PHLY for 10% off today.
For my Brigantine Jetty or Brigantine Cove people, that's the item you need. Floating on the cove there while you're in the water. I like that.
All right, let's get to a couple more questions here. Go to Fly Guy 7. I like these historical what ifs. What if we didn't trade Brayden Schenn for Frost and Farabee? Draft day 2017. Flyers have the second overall pick. They select Nolan Patrick, and then they trade back into that draft. Trade Brayden Schenn to St. Louis. Take the first-round pick that becomes Morgan Frost, and then a year later, the extra first-round pick they got, they select Joel Farabee. In all likelihood, he's traded shortly after that anyway. I don't. Ron Hextall just really never seemed to like Brayden Schenn all that much.
Interesting.
The first contract he negotiated with Schenn, they figured out on arbitration day in the room before the arbiter got there. They were like, hey, give us a minute. And finally got to the contract before arbitration. He was just never really sold all the way on Brayden Schenn.
I wonder why that was.
I don't know. It was never fully got on board with Schenn, but let's say they keep him. Say he's still a Flyer. Right now, they would be paying $6.5 million a season for a guy who over the last 2 years has scored 20 and 21 goals. I mean, that's less. That's more than you're paying Owen Tippett right now. for his 27, 28 goals and hopefully a lot more. He's 32. He just turned 33 the other day. His birthday is August 22nd. So he turned to 33 years old last week. He is the captain of the St. Louis Blues now. So perhaps he's our captain right now. I doubt it because it seemed like Sean Couturier was kind of the guy.
Right.
The room looks up to Sean Couturier a lot, but listen, Morgan Frost, I doubt he ever really lives up to what we expected from him on that draft night. And really, I mean, draft night, people were disappointed because we thought we were getting Eli Tolvainen, and he didn't really turn out either. But Joel Farabee, we will still see. He's giving you the output that Brayden Schenn's giving you right now, and he's younger and about $1 million cheaper a season, maybe $1.5 million cheaper a season. So 1 for 1 seems like a pretty decent trade, and there's still room for Farabee to grow a little bit. And Schenn at 33, like he's only going to get worse. So there's just not that. I was never the biggest Brayden Schenn fan. He had a few real good seasons. He does win a cup in St. Louis. That cup had a whole lot more to do with Ryan O'Reilly and Alex Pietrangelo and even Jordan Binnington than it did Brayden Schenn. But he was a nice depth piece on those teams. He only scored like 5 goals in those playoffs. Not like he went nuts. But we always look back and go, it is funny that he's a return we get for Mike Richards. LA obviously wins with Richards and Carter. And Schenn, after we trade him a year later, wins the cup.
Like, never ends, Bill.
The trade trees always end with a Stanley Cup on the other end. And that's how obviously disappointing. But, like, Schenn's a nice player. He's no different than anything the Flyers have, except he plays center.
Yeah, dude. I mean, listen, regardless, it always felt like the timelines were just never going to collide together. But I look at deeper. So, like, in that 2018 playoff series against Pittsburgh, would have helped us at all? You lose in 6. Would have helped you beating Malkin and Crosby over there?
It would
probably
have
not.
They probably needed a little more offense. Giroux was real bad, and everyone but Sean Couturier basically was real bad in that 2018 series. Maybe Brayden Schenn with that depth. He's got a little size. Maybe that helps you. Those teams were just never destined for anything. Maybe if you have Brayden Schenn, you're a little better, but like, is he better than Crosby or Malkin? No.
What about the 2019-2020 Vigneault first season?
Could he have helped you? You have a little size against the Islanders. It does go 7. I had not considered 2020. What kind of year did Schenn have? 1920. He plays 71 games, 25 goals, 58 points. It's one of the better years of his career. Does St. Louis make the playoffs that year? What did he do? 1920. He had 5 points in 9 playoff games for them. Maybe he's the difference. Maybe Brayden Schenn's the guy who scores a goal in game 7. I honestly hadn't thought about 2019-20, but if you're just looking for a little bit extra, maybe he's the thing that helps you. But Joel Farabee was real good that year, too.
He was.
That was maybe Joel Farabee. I realize he set the career highs last year, but that was maybe Joel Farabee's best season was 1920. So you just cancel out one with the other. I'm not sure.
Also probably negates the Kevin Hayes trade, too.
That's a thing. Maybe you don't. You have that center, so you're not looking for depth down the middle with Kevin Hayes. You have Brayden Schenn, so maybe you're able to add pieces elsewhere. Maybe it was been the smart move to keep him. Honestly, that's a good question. It is interesting. I kind of blew this question off, but I wanted your outside perspective because you haven't been as deep in it as long as I have. Where I'm just like, I don't know, nothing would ever worked out. That's my thing with the Flyers is, you know what, nothing would have ever worked because it's been this year's going to be 50 years without a cup. Was never going to happen, and Brayden Schenn wouldn't be the difference, but maybe in 2020 it would have been.
Because I agree with you. Like, he wasn't some superstar type player, but he played winning hockey, and that's what I look at in some of those other years. Would he have helped in those years? I look more at that 2019-2020 season than that 2018 year, but it is always interesting. It's always fun looking back at these trades. 28.
He's still in his prime at that point.
Yeah,
I can see him maybe having especially in that Islanders series where it's just like,
dude, we need
somebody to get to the goddamn net. Yeah. Just go. And he was great in that bumper position on the power play. He was a good slot player. Nice compliment to Giroux. He had his best years with Giroux setting him up on the power play. Maybe that could have helped. Maybe they get to a conference final, one extra win in round 2 in 2020, and the bubble isn't looked like as, and that's what tore the team apart.
Hey, then again, well, listen, in 2020, we were not beating the Lightning, but if we
probably not.
did make it to Eastern Conference Finals, but I probably would have pushed back this rebuild as well, because then they're like, that team did go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know, man.
That's they have, and then 2021 plays out the exact same way, and it's like, but this core, maybe a couple of adjustments. Like, maybe we're still saying that. Like, Giroux gets re-signed. Maybe this would have been a disaster. Like, it would have helped in 2020, but they ultimately lose in the conference final anyway. And then everything else keeps getting pushed back, and we don't even have Michkov.
Bill, everything happens for a reason, buddy.
I hope so. And that reason is to spite the Flyers. Like, that's the problem. This is a fun one from John Berner. He asks, what if one of Luchenko, Bonk, or Barkey has a ridiculously good camp?
It's going to be interesting.
Luchenko, he just turned 18. He was 17 when they drafted him. He turned 18 last week. I just don't see them having any interest in that. Bonk, they just really seem invested in this idea of go back and dominate your level, go to world, be on the world junior team, go have that awesome year, and then next year, hopefully you're up here. If not, you're in the AHL. They seem very interested in having a slow burn process with Oliver Bonk, but I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility. He took a big step last year. If he has the same sort of development leap he took last year, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility to make roster space for him. You're probably going to have to trade some guys. I don't know how much of a fire there is under Danny Briere to accomplish that. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think Bonk has the best chance.
Right.
Barkey, he just needs to develop more.
Yeah.
He still looks like a little kid, man.
Build that body
I think
up,
he
man.
could be maybe the next Scott Lawton, something like that. He could be a really nice third-line winger for you, penalty killer, do those sorts of things. But I just don't know if he's physically developed yet enough. Oliver Bonk, I guess it's non-zero, but it's going to be a couple of other guys have bad camps, maybe some injuries, maybe some trades. They just have to clear out too much to totally deviate from their plan for him.
Yeah, unless you're a Connor Bedard type, I just find it crazy just bringing up a kid that's not even 20 years old, who's not fully developed in this game. They may have some great camps, and that does happen, but you just talked about, look at Barkey. The dude needs to still build out his body.
Yeah.
Luchenko definitely still needs to build out his body. So if they have great camps, awesome. That's great to see, but they still need to finish the development.
Luchenko, I guess because they need centers, and he is a guy who has worked on developing physically a bit. He's one of these guys who I read maybe I heard him say it in an interview, during the pandemic, he just kind of built a gym in his garage and really went to town. So maybe he has a little less development to do physically than Barkey. And I don't know, just everything I heard out of development camp is he ain't there.
Yeah.
They do need centers, but I think if anyone has the possibility, it's Bonk. But they just have such a plan in place for him that it's I don't see it happening.
Yeah, dude.
What would a great camp, a ridiculously good, it would have to be ridiculous.
Yes, yeah.
Because there's and Emile Andre is so far ahead of him on the developmental path. He'd have to beat out so many guys.
Do get excited thinking about Luchenko and Michkov playing on a line together in the future. It'd be awesome.
I really hope they're right about Luchenko.
I know, man. Dude.
The world just hates that pick so much.
Yeah, man.
But listen, the draft is a crapshoot, and everyone is wrong about it all the time. There are busts, there are breakouts, there are surprises. Guys go in the second round that should. You look at redrafts, and it happens. Maybe the scouting world is wrong about Jet Luchenko, and the Flyers are right. I just don't see that being the case right away.
That doesn't help that we just watched the draft special NHL Network is putting out there. You don't see anywhere that Jet Luchenko's in there with all those first-round prospects.
This is a depressing one.
Oh, boy.
From Marshall Morrisal. What if someone goes after Michkov and no one does anything the way they did with Oscar Lindblom. That was maybe the low point of Flyers fanhood is when the Islanders were just beating on Oscar Lindblom after he returned from cancer and no one did anything. Half of this rebuild is about avoiding that.
Yeah.
Like there are multiple players on this team who, like if that were to happen, they'd be unemployed the next day.
Yeah.
Like Nick Seeler, they'd look to terminate, like talk about a material breach of contract from Nick Seeler. It's like, no, man, we gave you a whole bag of money to do that. Like, I don't expect Nick Delorier to play a lot. But if this were to happen and he's on the bench, he needs to jump off the bench and commit a crime against the guy who does that. Like, yeah, man, we'll bail you out. Not even just fight him. Like, no, you hit him over the head with your stick.
Yeah.
That's what you do now. Like, it's why you're here. We don't care if you get suspended for life. You now have a job for life. You're a senior advisor to the Philadelphia Flyers because you're not allowed to play anymore. Like, there's just multiple guys on this team whose job it is not to do that. If it were to happen in this hypothetical, John Tortorella should be fired. Like, because it's his job to instill this culture where that doesn't happen. Like, half of this rebuild is about avoiding those situations.
Yeah, Michkov's the baby. He's the cornerstone piece of this rebuild that we're doing. And this is why, I know a lot of people were upset with some of the decisions Torts was doing, but dude, we've been building culture over the last 2 years. And this is why. So things like that do not happen again. So I would fully expect that this team would come in defense for Matvei Michkov. Yeah, they and this locker room knows too how important Michkov is to all this. Obviously, too, new to this country, doesn't really speak the language as well. So make him as comfortable as possible, and that does. First off, if that does happen, I feel like Michkov also has got a punch in him too.
And that's and like Danny said, like on the ride back from JFK, like they're in the car and he's showing him videos of the Delorier Rempe fight and be like, this is your new best friend, like that. It simply cannot happen.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Before we go any further, before we wrap up today's show, I want to thank all of our diehards out there. If you're not yet a diehard, go to allphly.com. Sign up. The benefits are never ending. Access to all of our premium content, including all of Charlie O'Connor's articles and our superstar lineup of writers. We have it all, phly.com. Access to the Discord. Eligibility for things like this ticket giveaway. That's only for diehards that I'm doing this week and next week. So all sorts of benefits. But thank you to the people who are already signed up to be diehards. We couldn't do it here without you. Let's try to get one more question in. Let's see what's interesting here. All right, let's go to the next one up. From Seth Pamilia, what if Fedotov is the starter at some point this season? What if he supplants Sam Ersson?
Not good.
Yeah, I think that would be more of an indictment of Sam Ersson.
For sure.
But maybe it's not without precedent even in this franchise. Roman Cechmanek comes over at 28, 29 years old and not only wins the starting job, but like gets Vezina votes, wins a Jennings Trophy one season, like one of the best goalies by production numbers in franchise history. So it's not impossible. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, if that were to happen, it would be a real indictment of Sam Ersson.
Right. Well, context is always important, right? I mean, obviously, like, what if Ersson has like a season-ending injury or something like that? But obviously, like that wouldn't be a good thing if Fedotov becomes a full-time starter there. But I'm intrigued by Fedotov too. Obviously, we saw like not even a handful of games from him.
It's like, as Charlie always puts it, he's coming over jet-lagged without even like a full like season behind him. Like, he's breaking in new pads. They're basically hand-me-down pads. Like, he might be great. He might stink. We learned nothing about it from those 3 games and 1 start that he had in the NHL last year. Completely clean slate for him. But if I had to guess, he is not the answer to our goaltending question. It would be awesome, but like, I'm not putting money on that.
Right. I wonder, obviously, like the big body definitely helps in between the pipes, but like, how quick is he? Like that's something that we did see in those handful of games that we saw from him. Like, he's not the quickest guy out there.
And just like I heard Jason Martitas on Flyers Daily just talking about, and much more adept at evaluating goalies than I'll ever pretend to be. So I will absolutely just tell you what Martinez said, like things he was looking at when he saw Fedotov play, where like he's looking down at his skates, making sure he's in the right place in net, and then looking up and trying to track the puck. And it's like, yeah, man, you can't do that here. Everyone's the best player you've ever been up against at the NHL. Like the fourth liners here are awesome. So if that happens, you're going to get beat 5-hole before you look up and try to track the puck.
That's a good point.
You need to, the technical aspects of his game need to come along quite a bit. Yeah. Maybe they will. Like maybe he's this good and finally getting a chance. I'm not banking on it. Like I have much higher hopes for Sam Ersson, and I don't know if he's a number one in the NHL.
Exactly. Well, Fedotov's be fine. I got that Hollydale training, man.
Yeah, there you go, man. Get out on the Hollydale ice, and anything can happen. Before we finish up today, it's time for the Super Chats. We always wrap up with Super Chats, and today we have 3. First one from Adam S. Bill, do you want to play on my beer league team, Patriot Ice Center in Newark, Delaware, Tuesdays at 8?
That's a great invitation, man.
Adam, I haven't played beer league in a while. Don't have much equipment anymore after a snowstorm destroyed it all. I would love the invitation. Not sure I'm willing to go to Delaware, but here's the thing.
Just there yesterday.
Hockey season, 8 o'clock on Tuesdays. Quite often the Flyers are playing, and I'm doing this. I very much appreciate the invitation, Adam. Thank you
That's how you shoot your shot, Adam.
But I'm a little wrapped up with Flyers post games. Appreciate it though. Thank you, Adam. And his next one from Adam. Since Charlie is on vacation, big trade goes down.
Oh, we just traded Risto. You guys didn't get the memo?
That would be so freaking funny. He's here tomorrow, but won't be here Friday.
That'd be the worst. On a Friday.
Charlie and I are both not here Friday. It's going to be Friday. I'm hoping for tomorrow. That would be great for tomorrow, honestly.
Kelly and I got you with the breaking.
Yeah, if you guys had breaking news, that would be a lot of fun. Like, I would probably tune in and be like, "What are they doing?" Like, Bryn, send me an invitation. I'm jumping in. Ava would kill me. She'd be pissed.
I get you, man.
All right, and final super chat from our buddy Gary B. Charlie being away 1,000%. This team does something crazy. Yes. I can't wait for that domino to fall. Yes. It's always a possibility with Charlie away that they do something, because he is convinced that half of the moves they make are to spite him.
I think he told me this year on Valentine's Day he went out on a dinner.
He was away when they named the captain, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's bound to happen, guys.
No, Ava was hosting a quizzo, and I was out at a bar with her, and Charlie was like on his Valentine's dinner, and Vince is hitting us up like, emergency show? We're like, no. No, we'll be there.
We draw the line.
We have our normal time tomorrow, and we'll talk all about them sewing a letter on a guy's sweater. It's what does this mean? It means that jerseys in the pro shop are going to have extra decorations on them. Like, that's, we're not doing it. Vince was like, all right, you're probably right. We could have done it, but it wasn't happening. No, all right, and that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you just can't get enough Bill Matz, if you're like, man, I hear this guy talk for 60, 65, 70 minutes 5 times a week, and I want to hear more, tune in to the Anthony Gargano Show tomorrow. Woo! I'm hosting, filling in for Anthony. You can catch me live 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Going to be a great time right here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the PHLY YouTube. Set those reminders.
So pumped for tomorrow.
Set those reminders so you never miss a live show. We'll be back with PHLY Flyers, of course, at our usual time, 1 p.m. as well. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. Follow the podcast wherever you get those as well. Just search PHLY Flyers. Hit subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. All right. My name is Bill Matz. That's JP Zapata. Till tomorrow, you have a great day, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.